आप सबने शोले मूवी तो ज़रूर देखी होगी एंड आपको वो सीन भी याद होगा जब उसमें वीरू टंकी पे चढ़ कर के धमकी देता है कि मैं सुसाइड कर लूँगा, मैं अपनी यहाँ से कूद के जान दे दूँगा अगर बसंती से मेरी शादी नहीं हुई तो. In the same manner, if you stand on the top floor of your house and intimidate or blackmail your mother that sign the property papers or else I'll jump. So is this contract a valid contract and the consent that is obtained is actually a consent? Hi everyone, I'm Megha and welcome to UGC Net with Megha. In this video, we are going to understand the concept of free consent. So what do we mean by free consent? Free consent means free will or the assent given by a person on his own wish. So simply put, free consent means when two parties agree upon the same thing in the same direction, that is, they perceive things in the manner as they are intended to be. So this is known as consensus ad idem, when the things are perceived in the same manner both by the offerer and the offeree. So there are certain exceptions or certain situations when the consent is not considered as free. If the consent is obtained with the use of coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation or mistake, then it is not considered as free consent and thus such contracts are not valid contracts. In the first four categories, that is undue influence, coercion, misrepresentation and fraud, the contract is voidable at the option of aggrieved party. That means a person who has suffered undue influence, coercion or who has been frauded can cancel the contract if he wants to or may continue with the contract. That is the choice of the person who has suffered because of this type of a contract. Whereas in case of mistake, the contract is not sound in itself, that is why it is considered as a void contract, as in it does not become a contract which is enforceable by law. So as such, it's just an agreement and thus void. Now we are going to understand what is meant by these five categories or the five situations wherein a consent is not said to be a free consent. The first term that we are going to understand here is coercion. So as defined by the Indian Contract Act, coercion is committing or threatening to commit any act forbidden by the Indian Penal Code or the unlawful detaining or threatening to detain any property to the prejudice of any person whatsoever with the intention of causing any person to enter into an agreement. This is how coercion has been defined in the Indian Contract Act, but it seems very difficult to understand just by mere reading of the definition that has been given under the Contract Act. So in simple words, coercion means intimidating or blackmailing a person to abstain from doing something or to do something, which means that either you are blackmailing a person for not doing a particular act or you are blackmailing that person to do a particular act as directed by you. This can be understood like, for example, there is a cloth mafia or a cement mafia out there, and if any other person opens a cloth shop, so he goes and intimidates him or blackmails him that you will have to pay for your life if you don't close the shop immediately. So this is abstaining, blackmailing for abstaining to do something, whereas there can be an act wherein you can blackmail a person or put a person on a gunpoint and ask him to sell his car. So this is where you blackmail or intimidate a person to do an act. So this is known as coercion. And such an act is either prohibited by the Indian Penal Code or is punishable under the law. And these contracts are voidable at the option of the agreed party. That means the person who has been blackmailed or intimidated has the option to either get the contract cancelled from the court of law or to execute it. And also, in case he wants to get the contract cancelled, then he himself has to prove that coercion was applied in order to enter into this particular contract. So the burden of proof lies on the aggrieved party. Now there are few situations which are an exception to this coercion. When you threaten somebody that I'll take you to the court, तुझे तो मैं कोर्ट में देख लूंगा. So all these threats are not considered as coercion because our law permits us to take somebody to the court if we find them doing something unjust or undue. Another exception is a threat to go on strike. When the workers give a threat to their employer that they'll go on strike if their wages are not increased. So this is a just way of protesting against the injustice that the employers are doing to their employees, and thus it is also allowed by the law that so if anybody gives a threat that they'll go on strike, it will not amount to coercion. The third exception is detaining the property under mortgage. That means if you have kept your property under mortgage and taken a loan against it, and if you are unable to pay that loan, then if the bank blackmails you or threatens you that we are going to detain or take away the property from you if you don't pay the loan in the amount stipulated, then it is also not considered as coercion, because the banks have the right to sue the property or detain the property in case of non-payment of dues. Next situation is undue influence. As per the Indian Contract Act, a contract is said to be influenced by undue influence where the relation subsisting between the parties are such that one person is in a position to dominate the will of the other person and he uses that position to obtain an unfair advantage over the other. So simply put, we can say that undue influence is when one party is in the position to dominate the other party. So the relationship between the parties to the contract is such that one party is in the position to dominate the other party and get things done in his favor from the other party. So example of undue influence can be the example that we saw in the beginning of the video, where I was intimidating my mother to sign the property papers or else I'll jump from the top floor of the house. So now here I was threatening my mother to commit suicide and forcing her to sign the papers. This means that I have taken the advantage of our relationship. I know that my mother loves me a lot, and all the mothers love their children a lot, and they could not afford to lose their child. So out of this love and fear, they will sign the contract papers. So this is known as undue influence, and again such contracts are voidable at the option of the agreed party. So here the agreed party is my mother. She can straight away go to the court and tell the court that my daughter was blackmailing me to commit suicide, thus I have to sign the papers and I want this contract to be declared as void. So the court will ask my mother to prove it, that she was intimidated by me that I'll be committing suicide, and she has to sign the papers. Thus we can say that the burden of proof lies on the aggrieved party here also. And if my mother wishes, she can also continue with the contract. So this means that such contracts are voidable at the option of the aggrieved party. A party to the contract is said to be in a dominant position if the relationship between the two parties to the contract is of a parent or a child, doctor or a patient, client and the solicitor, etc. But there are certain exceptions in these relationships, which are the tenant and the landlord, the creditor and the debtor, etc. Fraud means hiding an important fact with an intention to deceive the other party, that is purposely not disclosing some important information in order to cheat the other person. So example of fraud can be, I give you an offer that I am selling my house for rupees 40 lakhs and you agreed to buy the same for rupees 40 lakhs, but my house or my property was under dispute and I did not disclose this fact to you, and I sold you my property without disclosing this particular fact. So this is known as fraud. It was an important fact, but I did not disclose it purposely because I knew if I tell you that my property is a disputed property, you will not buy it. I purposely hid the fact from you, and thus this amounts to fraud. These contracts are also voidable at the option of the aggrieved party, and the burden of proof lies on the aggrieved party itself. There is an exception to fraud, that is, mere silence does not amount to fraud, which means that if I am just quiet and not disclosing something does not amount to fraud. When I purposely intend not to disclose a fact, then it amounts to fraud, whereas I am just quiet, it does not amount to fraud, because there is a saying called caveat emptor, which says that let the buyer be aware. So now the buyer also has to take proper care and investigate and be informed about the item being purchased, or for whatever means he is entering into the contract, he should know the pros and cons related to it and then enter into the contract. Thus, just keeping mum does not amount to fraud. The next situation is misrepresentation. So misrepresentation means non-disclosure of a fact without any intention to deceive. So this can happen when you believe something to be true which is actually not true, but since you believe it to be true, you pass on the same information to the other party, and the other party relies on the information provided by you. So this is known as misrepresentation. For example, A offers his car for rupees 50,000 to B, believing it to be in an excellent condition without getting it tested from a workshop. Later on, after purchase, B discovers that the AC of the car was faulty, which A believed it to be working totally fine, but it was later on proved false. So this is known as misrepresentation, because A did not have any intention to hide this fact from B. He himself believed that AC is working fine, so he passed on the same information to B. So such cases amount to misrepresentation. Here also the contracts are voidable at the option of the aggrieved party, and the burden of proof lies on the aggrieved party itself. The last situation wherein a consent is not said to be a free consent is mistake. Mistake may be defined as an innocent or erroneous belief which leads the party to misunderstand the others. Mistake can either be bilateral or unilateral. Bilateral mistake is when both the parties to the contract are under a mistake, and unilateral mistake is when only one party to the contract is under a mistake. Let's understand mistake with the help of an example. I offer my friend that I am selling my car for rupees 50,000. Will you buy the car? So my friend, without knowing which car I am selling, said yes. I was intending to sell my Santro car, and she believed that I am selling my Swift. So now both the parties are thinking about different subject matter here. Thus this is a mistake on account of both the parties, and there is no consensus ad idem. That means they are not agreeing upon the same thing in the same sense. Thus such an agreement does not amount to contract, as it is a void contract, and thus it remains an agreement in itself. And also one more thing that we need to remember here is that the contracts entered on account of mistake are void. That's all about free consent. Thank you for watching this video, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. For further details, visit our website. The link for the website is given in the description below. And for regular updates on UGCnet, follow us on our social media handles. And if you want me to cover any particular topic, then do leave your comments in the comment section.